Welcome to Rewild by Design, a podcast for women in midlife who are ready to burn the rule book, drop the good girl mask, and come home to who they really are. I'm your host, Marissa, a human design and Gene Keys mentor, and your guide in this wild woman era. Get ready for bold conversations, raw truths, and the kind of insights that'll shake you awake. Because midlife isn't the end of your story. It's the point where you finally get to write it your way. Hey there, and welcome back to Rewild by Design. And today we're going right into the heart of one of my favoriteest tools, human design. And if you've ever felt like you've tried all the things, the productivity hacks, the vision boards, the morning routines, and they either left you burned out, see episode 2, or didn't work at all, this conversation is for you. Because what if the problem wasn't you? What if the problem was the rule book you were given? Now, human design is often described as a system, but how I like to think of it is a mirror. It shows you who you've been all along, underneath all of the masks and the roles you've had to play. Now, when I first stumbled across human design or it found me, I thought this sounded kind of weird. It was strange. And if I'm being completely honest, I was a little put off by it. And I was actually in one of those crunchy moms groups and someone brought up this human design system and I was like, "Oh, this is kind of interesting." And I'm a lurker. I don't go in and like really comment a lot in the groups. So I just clicked their link that they included and it took me to the original Jovian Archive website. And if you know anything about human design, you know the traditional human design language is less than uplifting, let's say. And what I saw was this like weird chart with a bunch of shapes and colors and numbers. And I was like, huh. Like I found out my type was a projector and I had to wait for an invitation. And I felt really disempowered, to be completely honest here. But then I started reading a little bit more. I came back to it a little bit after that. And it was like someone had been watching my whole life and taking notes. I finally understood why I got so burned out in jobs that demanded constant output from me, and why I felt invisible in certain relationships, and why I could never thrive by doing the things in the way that everyone else told me to. Now, human design didn't give me this like new shiny identity. It reminded me that there's nothing wrong with me. And I wasn't failing. I was just trying to live by rules that weren't mine. And that's when the word rewilding like came into my awareness and the foundations of rewilding started to take root because human design didn't make me into someone else. It brought me back to myself. And to me, that was the most empowering knowledge that I could ever have. So, what is human design? Long story short, it is a synthesis, so a combination of ancient wisdoms like astrology, the Kabbalah tree of life, the chakra system, and the I Ching, combined with quantum physics and epigenetics. And I know, it sounds complicated, but here's what actually matters from the system. It shows you two things that can change everything: how your energy naturally works, for one, and two, how you're meant to make decisions that actually support you. And if you take nothing else from today, take those two pieces. Because Once you start honoring those two things, you stop wasting energy in ways that drain you. And you start finding momentum where things used to feel impossible. I don't know. You're like, Marissa, it really can't be that easy. Yes. It's like having that little easy button. Literally press the button. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the energy types. And I'll go in and dive into each of these maybe in a separate episode in the future. But for now, I just wanted to give like this as like a primer of the basics of human design. So, in the system, there are 5 main energy types. And I like to think of them as like energetic archetypes. And these are all the configuration of your energy type is determined by your date of birth, time of birth, and location. So, first off, we have generators. Generators have a defined sacral center, but no motor center that is connected directly to the throat. And again, in a future episode, we'll go a little bit deeper into what that means. Long story short, generators have a defined sacral center. You're the builders of the world because you have consistent access to your own life force energy when you're doing work or activities that truly excite you. Now, that doesn't mean just doing for the sake of doing. So, in midlife, many generators hit burnout because they've spent years pouring energy into things and places and people that they felt that they should do instead of what actually excites them. That result is this deep underlying frustration. And now, frustration isn't failure, this is feedback. It's your body telling you, this isn't it. Now, on the opposite end, the other emotional signpost for generators is when they follow their satisfaction. So, if you're a generator, when you let yourself respond to what excites you in the moment, and responding is a simple gut yes or no. It's a uh-huh or an uh-uh. And when you let yourself respond to what excites you in that moment, your energy becomes magnetic and palpable and this deeply fulfilling. I almost see it like this like warm hug of energy. And the key for generators, especially in midlife, is giving yourself permission to pivot and say no, even if it means disappointing the expectations of others. And then we have manifesting generators. Now, manifesting generators are often lumped together with generators because MGs also have a defined sacral. But there's an important nuance here. MGs, you have the same sacral life force energy, but it moves faster and more dynamically. That's because you have one or more of the motor centers. And again, we'll talk about that in a later episode. So, a motor center is something that it could be the sacral, the solar plexus, the will center, or the root. One of those centers is directly connected to the throat center. So, that's what sets generators apart from manifesting generators. Now, manifesting generators are built for efficiency. And that being said, sometimes because you're skipping steps, you have to go back and say, oops, I needed that. And that can lead to that frustration. Now, you may light up at something, dive in head first, and then realize a week later you're totally over it. That's not just ADHD, okay? It's not a flaw. This is how you're designed. You are designed to be really excited about things, and you're designed to have multiple projects happening at the same time because you have so much life force energy. And a lot of times in midlife, Manigens often carry guilt about being flaky or not finishing what they start. So, going back, Manigens in midlife, again, you carry this guilt about being flaky or not finishing what you start. But you're actually meant to skip those steps. You're here to be our time benders, to change directions, to pivot, to hold multiple passions at once, because you show us the possibilities. And you just drain yourself when you try to force, yourself into that straight line path. And your signature is also satisfaction, but it also comes with freedom. So when you're following what lights you up, even if it changes tomorrow, even if it changes 3 hours from now, you release the pressure to prove that you're consistent and start living the variety and speed that your energy craves. Now, projectors. As I said before, you're here to guide, you're not here to push, and the invitations and that recognition is so important because your energy is different. Your energy focuses into other people, and you have to receive consent from someone else to energetically be in their aura. So that's what being recognized is. Someone sees that you have something to share. And projectors, you don't have a defined sacral, and there's no motor center directly tied to the throat. You can have a defined throat center, but it's not connected to an energy center. And because you have that undefined sacral center, now that doesn't mean that you can't do things. Okay, let's rewrite that. Just because it's undefined doesn't mean you don't have it. It's just about being more intentional and more wise about how you're using your life force energy. Now, midlife, especially, many projectors hit burnout and hard because you spent years trying to keep up with everybody else. And the invitation to be, let's say, the invitation isn't about waiting on the sidelines passively. It's about first recognizing yourself and how your energy works. Because when you're seen and valued for that wisdom that you would just innately carry, people appreciate that. They don't appreciate when you're forcing yourself into spaces that don't recognize you. Now, manifestors, you are our initiators. You help set things in motion. Manifestors, like projectors, do not have a defined sacral center, but you do have an energy center that is connected to the throat. And a lot of times, manifestors also can burn out really hard because a lot of times you were told and conditioned as you were growing up or going through society that you had to ask permission. You had to tone yourself down. You had to be palatable. Don't rock the boat. And in midlife, that anger, which is one of your emotional signposts, and that restlessness often come to the surface because deep down, you've always known that you were here to go your own way. Now, the strategy of informing is not about asking permission. Informing is just clearing the path so your impact can land smoothly and you do have that clear path to go and do what you want to do. And manifestors work best in those work cycles and then rest cycles. So if you're just constantly hustling for validation and to feel useful and to fit in, that's where you're going to burn out. And last but not least, reflectors. You're only 1% of the human population, and you're here to mirror back the environment that you live in. And because you are a lunar type, your energy works so much differently than the other 4 types who are solar types. And reflectors, it's correct for you to wait 28 days, so a full moon cycle, before making those big decisions in life. So the relationships, the careers, the business adventures. It's correct to wait that long. In our society, That's frowned upon, right? We've got to make quick decisions. We've got to figure it out. Just make up your mind. So, for reflectors in midlife, this can feel really heavy because you've spent decades in environments that don't nourish you. You've been taking all of that in, but your gift is perspective, and your challenge is remembering that your unique pace and your unique timing are perfectly designed just as they are. And your decisions take time, and that's your wisdom. So, looking at maybe grounding this in real life, okay? Let's come full circle here. If you're a generator working in a job that drains you, but you're staying there because it's secure, you're going to feel it as deep frustration. And again, frustration is just feedback. And if you're a mani-gen juggling projects or feeling guilty for not finishing them, just know that your energy isn't designed to move in that straight line. You're meant to pivot and pivot often. If you're a projector who's always been told to just work harder, you've probably carried that exhaustion for decades. And this is your reminder that your gift isn't in doing more, it's seeing deeper. If you're a manifester holding back because you've been told you're too much, midlife is often when the urge to finally go your own way becomes undeniable. And if you're a reflector, the environments and the people around you matter more than anything else. And if you've been in the wrong spaces and with the wrong people, it's no wonder you feel off. And this is why human design feels so radical, because it validates the things you already feel in your body, but we're taught to dismiss. And as I mentioned before, midlife is often painted in this negative light. It's painted like this crisis, but it's a crossroads. And by this point, if you're like so many of the women that I work with, and like myself, you've spent decades living by rules that are not for you. The burnout, the resentment, the restlessness, the feeling that there has to be more, those are your signals, and it's time to listen to them. Human design gives you the language for what you've always known about yourself deep down, and that these rules weren't made for you. And again, I will die on this hill. Midlife isn't a time about just reinventing yourself or becoming someone different. It's about remembering who you are and being bold enough to live from that place. And when you do, things shift. Relationships feel different. Your work feels different. The way you hold yourself feels different. Because you're no longer trying to live someone else's life. Now, as I usually do, I like to pause and give a little reflection here. And I want you to reflect on what we've discussed today. So, where in your life have you felt most drained? And then where in your life do you feel most alive? And then if you knew your energy wasn't meant to look like anybody else's, what pressure would you finally release? And these aren't just nice to have questions just to ponder and mull over. These are your clues because they point you back to yourself. Now, I'm not asking you to figure it out all today. Let's just notice. Let's notice where you've been ignoring your natural way of being and noticing the patterns that you've been forcing. And I swear that awareness alone is the beginning of rewilding. So, as we wrap up today, this is the last thing I want you to take throughout your day. Human design is not another box to try to shove yourself into. If you look at your human design chart and it doesn't resonate, that's okay. Because the goal here is to learn to trust yourself and your own inner wisdom. And human design is just another reminder that you were never meant to live by someone else's blueprint. So start with your type. Play around with your type's strategy. And notice how your energy responds when you stop trying to force things. And if you want a really simple way to begin this journey, grab my free Energy Snapshot audio. I'll link it in the show notes. It'll tell you all about your energy type and what that means in plain language and some shifts you can start making today to feel less drained and more like yourself. And lastly, the work that we do here, I don't see it as work because we're not becoming someone new. We're just remembering who you already are. Well, that's it for this episode of Rewild by Design. I trust that you got what you needed here today, and just remember, you don't need another checklist. You need your own voice back. So go out, live a little louder, a little freer, and a hell of a lot more like yourself. And I'll see you next time.